Okay, welcome everyone to Freedom Hub's presentation, The Free Market Cash Patient. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with my special guest host, Dr. Jared Wallen. Definitely want to let you know we are sponsored by the Freedom Hub, which is 100% the disruptors intersection, as you'll see. But just steering into today's topic, we've got some issues in healthcare, and most people sort of come to this conclusion. And we can, this used to be like potentially the biggest issue, but now we can kind of substitute a lot of different names on the back of that person with the black coat on. And one of them might be that the system's a little bit confusing. This is just an example of a low income subsidy for an individual. So look what this mess this thing has become. And of course, there's information, but whose do we trust? Is it accurate? Who's telling it? Are they paid, not paid? And then also what starts to happen in the end? Gets a little scary. Well, we're all about trying to get you set free. So the reality is our site is a marketplace for health, wealth, and freedom. So in the health mode, we've got a little program that we like to talk about. We're going to learn about some other options tonight, because again, guess what? One size does not fit all. And then the other big thing is getting control of your wealth. This is probably the biggest problem, and it's going to get even more acute in certain ways. So here's a perfect example. Here's a client that had 24 debts. Can you imagine? This isn't even like their other bills. This is 24 bills they were paying interest on. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards, you name it. And they were supposed to take about 20 years to get out of debt based on just the way they've been going. But because they got involved with what we've got cooking here with our coaching system and some specialized software, they did it all in a little over 8 years with no refinancing, no anything, just better managing the money they already had. So you've got that power to it until you just come over to the site, your-mp.com/wealth, you'll see. And then on that, let's take a look-see, because let's roll into today. So when you come over to the site, you'll see there's a lot of good stuff to take a look at. These drop downs. Here's that wealth tab I mentioned as an example. And under the home tab, you'll see webinars and continuing the conversation. Well, the latter one is very important, because after you've had a great chat and you really want to follow up with this person, here's how you do it. You come over here and you connect with them, and this gives you ongoing involvement with them as far as like donating or furthering their cause or petitioning or whatever it's going to take to help that person. You need to be a participant in it as well. And then other than that, we have the webinar tab. Well, that's where we are right now. So let's take a look at that for 2 seconds, and let's bring in our co-host. We've got the earlier call, which is about freedom issues in general, and the one we're on right now is about cash and the medical profession. A little rundown on who's the guests. Here we are for tonight right now. Here's a little breakout on our guest co-host. And then coming up is who's in the future. This is a great way to plan forward. And then I'm taking all the way down here on purpose, because here are the links here you get to see the past videos. So we're on BitChute, Brighteon, YouTube, and Rumble. So let's take a look at Rumble for a minute. And you'll see there's a lot of great videos. It goes back for years. And like I said, you'll take a look at the current one. You'll watch some older ones. And the next thing you know, you want to start continuing that conversation. So let's sort of find out what's going to happen with us tonight and what's going to be in store for our educational purposes tonight. So on that note, Dr. Wallen, please step in.
Thanks so much, Jeff. On today's episode, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Byron Hugley. He's a national sales director for MyMD Connect. He works with individuals, families, and businesses that are unknowingly and unnecessarily overspending on their health insurance. In this presentation, we'll be discussing Obamacare alternatives that improve individual health outcomes while maximizing your financial protections if you become sick, injured, or disabled. And further, we'll explore Obamacare and other fully insured health plans as to why they're so expensive and how this healthcare law created a financial incentive for the industry to keep you sick and overpaying for your healthcare. So without further ado, Mr. Hugley, thanks so much for joining us. Take it away.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Make sure that that's, can everybody see?
Perfect.
See what I have?
Perfect.
Excellent. So I'm going to actually shut off my video and get into the presentation. I'll bring it back on for questions. So So again, as Jared had kindly introduced me, my name is Byron Hugley. I'm actually a financial consultant that specializes in healthcare, income protection, and retirement for individuals, families, and businesses. And what I do is I offer a unique approach to helping people find money that they're unknowingly and unnecessarily losing to their health insurance while helping them improve their access to care. I then teach these clients how they can use these savings to solidify their own financial future, oftentimes without impacting their current lifestyle. Now, a client of ours recently had a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, what normal people call a gallbladder removal. Her story presents a great opportunity to demonstrate the difference between our customized health plans and traditional Obamacare plans. But before we get started, I need to explain how these plans pay their benefits. Unlike Obamacare, which often pays wildly different prices for the exact same procedure, our custom healthcare plans work a lot like Medicare. It pays a defined amount 100% of the time based on a schedule of benefits. This money can be paid directly to the provider, to the facility, or to the patient if they decide to pay for the care up front. In this case, the plan paid a set benefit of $9,400 for her gallbladder removal. There was no deductibles, no co-pays, no co-insurance required. And by knowing how much she had to spend and by being a savvy consumer, she was able to use our resources and find a bundled cash price of just $5,100. So not only was her surgery paid for 100%, but she was able to put the remaining $4,300 in her pocket for being a good consumer and making a great healthcare decision. Now, ironically, if she had a high deductible Obamacare plan, she would have most likely paid more for her deductible than the cash price of the surgery itself. Plus, our plans are 40 to 60% less expensive each month, so she's saving all the way around. So let's use this gallbladder surgery to explore why these Obamacare plans cost so much more while offering us so much less. According to TexasHealthcareCosts.org, an official state website managed by the Texas Department of Insurance, the average Texas hospital reported billing $444,877 for a gallbladder removal. Insurance companies pay an average total allowed rate of $114,292. For comparison, Medicare, which covers over 61 million Americans over the age of 65, pays just $5,525 for the exact same gallbladder removal. Now, this creates some obvious questions. Why are hospitals billing 80 times more than Medicare, and why are private insurance companies willing to pay up to 20 times more than Medicare? I know what you're thinking. Maybe Medicare gets a better price because it's the government and they insure 61 million Americans. And while that's true, here are some published bundled prices that you can find online. Texas Free Market Medical has an all-inclusive bundled price, including the facility, the surgeon, and the anesthesiologist of $6,550. Surgery Center of Oklahoma is even less at just $5,865. So back to the elephant in the room. Why would Obamacare and other fully insured plans be willing to pay up to $114,000 on average for a $5,500 surgery? The answer is simple. These plans actually make their money off of how much they spend, not off of how much they save. So by spending up to 20 times more, they can expect to make significantly higher profits. So the insurance company wins, the hospital wins, it's the consumer that loses. What that means is these insurance companies would rather you have a heart attack, along with a $150,000 quadruple bypass surgery, than offer you a $100 primary care visit and a $4 high blood pressure medication. In fact, it's against the insurance company's financial best interest to keep you healthy, spend your premium dollars responsibly, or stop the healthcare waste, fraud, and abuse that runs rampant in our system. All of those things drive up costs, which drive up profits for their stockholders. As you can imagine, this makes for a pretty solid business model, which is why 7 of the top 8 Fortune 500 companies in America make a significant revenue from healthcare. And with all this money being spent on healthcare, it shouldn't come as a surprise that when Harvard did a study on bankruptcy, they found that 62% of bankruptcies were due to medical issues, and 78% of those people had health insurance. See, simply having health insurance is not enough, which is why we build our clients an entire financial safety net. If you're part of the 85% of the population that's healthy, our customized healthcare and income protection plans are generally 40 to 60% less than Obamacare, offer better access to care with the freedom to see any doctor that you choose, plus they offer a greater level of financial protection if you become sick, injured, or disabled. Now, these plans, unlike Obamacare plans, actually profit from keeping you healthy. They want you to get that high blood pressure treated before it turns into a heart attack, the high cholesterol before it becomes a stroke, and the high blood sugar before it becomes diabetes, which leads to kidney failure, blindness, amputation, and heart disease. And it's because of this that they offer first dollar coverage. Again, no deductibles, no co-pays, no co-insurance for outpatient or routine care. In fact, if you're smart about it, you can get your doctor visits, your specialist visits, your x-rays, labs, imaging, urgent care, and outpatient surgery, often paid for 100% with money to spare. And when your financial goals of your insurance company aligns with your individual goals of staying healthy and your doctor's goals of keeping you healthy, some amazing things can happen. So let's look at this in the real world. Let me give you a case study, one that's close to me because it's my own family. My wife has this coverage and she pays $269 a month for her custom healthcare and income protection plan, which includes a nationwide PPO network, 24-hour accident, out-of-pocket protection, catastrophic and balanced billing protection, critical illness, critical injury, chronic illness, terminal illness, and income protection. Imagine for a second that she didn't have an awesome husband to advise her on her insurance, and she decided to go with a more traditional plan. See a health plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield, an individual accident critical illness policy through United Healthcare, a long-term care policy through Mutual of Omaha, and an income protection policy through State Farm. Now, the good news is all of these companies offer online quotes where you never have to talk to an agent, which is extremely convenient. The bad news is she would end up paying $913 a month for less protection. So how do these two financial plans actually perform in the real world? Well, one morning, my wife was walking down the stairs with our daughter and tripped down the last two steps. She ended up torquing her back and was in significant pain. Initially, she thought she could treat the injury using a chiropractor. She would later find out through a lumbar spine MRI that she had a herniated disc and a pinched nerve. She sought the advice of an orthopedic surgeon and a second opinion from a second orthopedic surgeon before she made any decisions about a back surgery. Over the course of about 3 weeks, she had a chiropractic consultation, 6 individual chiropractic adjustments, 2 teledoc visits for medications that the chiropractor could not prescribe, a lumbar spine MRI, an orthopedic specialist visit at a local hospital, along with an x-ray, a second orthopedic specialist visit, and 2 prescriptions. Now, some of these things were paid with cash and we were reimbursed. Some were paid using our PPO network and we received back the difference. When it was all said and done, 100% of her care was paid for, plus we put $1,215 in her pocket for making good healthcare decisions. Here's some of the actual EOBs that we got from insurance and the checks that came along with them. The first one shows that she paid $276 on the chiropractic consultation and 4 of the 6 chiropractic visits. Also on here, you see $250 that she paid for her lumbar spine MRI that we got through Green Imaging. Even though we only spent $526 out of pocket, we received a check back from the insurance company for $1,180. That money's ours. We put it directly in our bank account. Here's another example. It's one of the specialist visits. Now, this particular visit we ran through our PPO network. As you can see here, the insurance company was billed $278, but with the network discount, it brought that cost down to $117.34. And since our plan pays $200 for specialist visits, we walked away with a check for $82.66. Last but not least, here's an EOB of her x-ray. Again, it was done at a hospital, So as you would expect, it's a little bit more expensive. In this case, it was $121 that was billed to the insurance. After the PPO discount, the total due was $72.57. Our plan pays $240 a day for x-rays, which means we walked away with a check for $167.43. For comparison, what would have happened if she had chosen that Obamacare plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield? Well, based on the plan summary, she would have paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,570 in deductibles, co-pays, and co-insurance for those exact same services. That doesn't even include the fact that she would have to see the doctor to get permission to see the chiropractor and both orthopedic specialists. So overall, her experience would be very different as well. So let's think about this for a moment. She would have paid over $1,570 for her care. She would have already been paying $7,728 in extra premium each year, and she would have never received the $1,215 back from the insurance company. So she would have paid $10,513 more for inferior care. I know what everybody's thinking. What if something crazy happens, like cancer? Wouldn't you want that Blue Cross Blue Shield plan with unlimited benefits? I'm glad you asked. Let's look at cancer. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. So the American Cancer Society tells us that nearly 40% of Americans will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lifetime. That means you and your family at some point will probably be touched by this disease financially. So what should you expect? Well, according to AARP, they tell us that the average cost of treating cancer is $150,000. But what about the non-medical cost of cancer? According to the American Journal of Medicine, they did a 12-year study with 9.5 million cancer patients and found that the average patient paid $92,000 out of pocket beyond their health insurance. So cancer is basically a $250,000 problem, plus you have to account for your lost income. Assuming my wife's treatment happened all in 1 year, what does her $269 premium get her? Well, again, she gets access to a nationwide PPO network that includes the top 3 cancer hospitals in America: MD Anderson, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and the Mayo Clinic. Also, her out-of-pocket protection eliminates her deductible. She has $250,000 in base healthcare benefits, plus another $250,000 in catastrophic and balanced billing benefits, which means she has over $500,000 in coverage for $150,000 medical treatment. That's great, but what about the other $92,000 that's not covered by your healthcare plan? I'm glad you asked. We also included income protection in our plan in the form of critical illness. So for moderate to terminal cancer, our family would receive a check between $200,000 and $850,000 to spend on whatever we want. That could be experimental treatments not covered by any insurance plan, treatment outside the US, pay our bills, take a vacation. It's ours to do whatever we want. In fact, our critical illness policy alone could pay for her treatment several times over. So in a nutshell, we have between $700,000 to $1,350,000 to take care of a $250,000 problem plus lost income. It's this level of coverage that helps me to sleep at night. Now, what would have happened if she chose a traditional plan? Well, she would pay her deductible, her co-insurance, her co-pays, and her hospital fees, which is roughly $10,000. Assuming she stayed in network for everything, which means inferior care, her Blue Cross Blue Shield plan would pay roughly $140,000 on her behalf. Her critical illness coverage through United Healthcare would have paid an additional $50,000 to our family. So she would end up with $190,000 from insurance for a $250,000 problem plus lost income. And the other $60,000 plus would have to come out of our own pockets in the form of savings, retirement, or just our child's college fund, selling off our assets, using our credit. Can you now see why 2 out of 3 bankruptcies are due to medical issues and 78% of those people had insurance? This is why people struggle and why they go broke. So now that you've seen how powerful these plans can be, you're probably wondering what's the catch. Now, there are some rules and limitations which actually help drive down the cost of the overall insurance. But the real reason why these plans are so inexpensive comes down to your broker. See, insurance companies pay brokers like me a lot of money, trips, and other financial incentives to keep premiums high and all of your business under one roof. If you don't have a knowledgeable consultant and broker who's willing to put your financial interests first, then you're setting yourself up to fail. There are 3 things your broker has to do to drive down costs and improve your coverage. The first is they have to get you verified, especially if you're generally healthy. If your broker pairs you with a company, your broker should pair you with a company that's going to reward you for your good health and lifestyle. Second is they need to right size your coverage. You don't want to be underprotected, but more importantly, you don't want to be overprotected and paying for coverages that you don't need or that you wouldn't use. Third, they need to pair you with the right companies, ones that'll offer the most benefit at the lowest cost. Let's look at how these 3 steps would reduce her cost from $913 a month to just $269 for better protection. The first step is to get her verified. By going from a guaranteed issue major medical plan to an underwritten defined benefit plan, we were able to save her $155 a month or $1,860 a year. Step 2, right sizing that coverage. By switching her from a low deductible plan to a high deductible plan with a separate out-of-pocket protection, this saves her an additional $187 a month or $2,244 a year while providing her better financial protection. And then step 3 is to pair her with the right companies. See, health insurance companies price coverage based on morbidity, how likely you are to get sick. Life insurance companies price coverage based on mortality, how likely you are to pass away. By switching her critical illness and long-term care policies from a health insurance platform to a life platform, not only were we able to expand her protections, but we were also able to save her an additional $302 a month or $3,624 a year. That's how you go from $913 for okay coverage to $269 for excellent coverage. So what happens if we put that $7,728 that she's saving each year to work for our family? Let me show you that. One of our proprietary strategies is what's called Health Bank. And Health Bank offers an alternative to overpriced major medical insurance plans where it provides similar tax advantages to a Roth IRA without the contribution limits. Also, these funds can be used to cover large medical expenses, much like a health savings account. They can also be spent on non-medical purchases like cars, homes, college funding, child's wedding, and a tax-free retirement that you can't outlive. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I do want to show you what would happen if we took that $7,728 per year that she's saving and put it into an account like this. By age 67, she would have recovered over $300,000 in unnecessary premium payments that would have been paid to various insurances. That money is estimated to grow to be over $1 million by the time she's ready to retire. Assuming that she didn't pass away, have a major injury, or a covered disability, she would be able to draw somewhere in the neighborhood of $89,627 tax-free for her retirement. Assuming she died at age 85, she would have collected over $1,613,000. Plus, our daughter would receive a death benefit of $677,223. That's nearly $2.3 million tax-free that my family would have never seen without using these types of strategies. Now, if you're committed to taking your health and finances seriously and you want a knowledgeable team that's going to look out for your financial best interest, we encourage you to reach out for a free consultation. Our website is insurancetune-up.com, or you can email us at insurancetune-up2021@gmail.com, or you can reach me personally on my cell phone at 281-323-0332.
Okay, Byron, that was fantastic. You know, it's always interesting to see what's available, that people don't even understand that there's solutions right there before your very eyes. Somehow they keep looking for something else, or they're waiting for somebody to tell them about it, or some law to get passed, or whatever. But you know, it is a marvel, and I'm sure you definitely always hear people say, "This is like too good to be true."
That is the
You
biggest
know?
challenge.
And even in spite of the fact that all the companies, you can show all the ratings and that they're approved in all the states, so it's not like you just made up a bunch of smoke and mirrors.
Right.
They're legitimate companies you're representing, and even in spite of all that, they're like, well, you know, my brother-in-law told me. So
And that's the sad thing, because
yeah.
a lot of people trust, what they've always known. Take Blue Cross Blue Shield, for instance, and I represent them, so I'm not disparaging them in any way, but they did a study on Obamacare plans and how many legitimate claims didn't get paid. About 17% of claims don't get paid that are legitimate claims, which means that money ends up falling back on the insured and they have to figure it out. So while we sit there and say that, one company is better than another, I mean, all of these companies have to be approved by the state. They look at all their financials. All of them have an appeals process and things of that nature. I think what it really comes down to is people think they know what's best for them, and they don't engage a professional that can actually help advise them on how to get the best care at the lowest cost, and then the best coverage at the lowest cost as well.
Right. Very good. Charles, I see your hand is up there.
Yes, Byron, fantastic presentation. Jeff and Dr. Wallen, you can see why I wanted him to present. We've had a few presenters like you over the years that offer a package of indemnity and other strategies, sometimes including various life products, and they're all very impressive. And my question for you is twofold. One is, you compared the limiting networks of Obamacare plans with your PPO. Does anyone question whether your PPO network is really any better than an Obamacare network plan that, infamously in a lot of articles excludes some of the better local doctors, which is why folks complain about those exchange networks? How does your PPO network get past that complaint?
So the PPO network on this particular plan, and again, it's used a little bit differently in the sense that it doesn't matter where you go, it's going to pay the exact same amount of money. The PPO network is more out of convenience, but it is PHCS multi-plan. With that plan, it's their top of the line network. So they're the largest and oldest private PPO network in the country. They have 1.2 million practitioners. I want to say there's, I think it's 80,000 ancillary facilities and over like 6,000 or 7,000 hospitals. They do have all the top hospitals, or a lot of the top hospitals out there. So your Mayo Clinics, Cleveland Clinic, UCLA Medical Center, things of that nature. So you do have a lot of freedom as far as that's concerned. I happen to live in Texas. All of our plans, there is no PPOs on Obamacare. So it's either going to be a regional or a statewide HMO. So yeah, it doesn't matter what plan you get here in Texas. It's not going to be very friendly going outside of our borders, if that makes sense.
So the PPO is a lot more expensive than the exchange networks?
No, it's not more expensive. It's significantly
expansive.
less. So, expansive. Yes, no, it's absolutely. I mean, I don't know that it rivals maybe Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare, but it's up there. I mean, most doctors do take it. And what happens is, again, this goes into the education part of things. A network is how an insurance company controls their costs. And because PHCS isn't a health plan, it's just a network. What happens is this plan is basically paying them a certain amount of money just for those discounts. That's all it is. So the doctor offers a discount, that PHCS multi-plan will send them patients, and that's kind of the trade-off. So it's a little bit different than what you would have with an integrated network inside of a larger plan like Blue Cross Blue Shield or Ambetter or something like that.
That's helpful, because Jeff and I actually use PHCS for our MEC. So
Yeah.
you gave me a good selling point on why it's good. Thank you.
I'll tell you. So I don't know, kind of spur of the moment. I don't know if I can find it real quick, but I have, so a lot of price transparency and stuff like that is coming out where you can see what plans actually pay. And it's funny because I was looking at a hip surgery through a provider, and I want to say through PHCS, the price, the discount was like $8,500. If you went through any of the blues, it was going to be about $1,400 that they pay for that. Self-pay was right around $14,000. Sorry, not 1,400. Was around $14,000 as well. And then once you started getting into some of the rented networks through like Cigna and Aetna, they were paying close to $40,000 for that same surgery. So PACS was actually down at the bottom cost-wise. In fact, even when my wife was supposed to have that surgery for her back, it was kind of ironic because they wanted to double the price if we paid cash. It was actually $1,200 if we went through our PPO network. It was going to be $2,800 if we paid cash. I was like, how does that make any sense? Like if I went to a car dealership and said, hey, how much is the cash price on this? Or how much is it if I finance this car? And you told me $12,000. And then I asked you how much if I put cash in your hand would it be? And you said $28,000. I'd fall out of my chair. But that's exactly what happened in that scenario.
That's interesting, Jeff and Byron. I mentioned Jeff, the host, because the sharing community we work with uses the PHCS heavily to get those better prices around cash.
Right.
Which makes sense now that what you say that, yeah, a lot of people do try to rip off cash payers where we think we're going to get discounts if we offer cash in most places.
And the thing is, so it's not that cash isn't a bad thing, just sometimes with some of these bigger networks like PHCS, again, they have 1.2 million practitioners nationwide. They just have a lot of leverage because they're sending a lot of patients from various health plans to these doctors so they can command a larger discount. So sometimes cash is king, sometimes using the PPO network makes sense. The good thing about this plan is it has a set rate. So you know exactly what you're dealing with. In her case, we said, how much is it through insurance? How much is it if we pay cash? We decide which one is going to make the most sense for us financially.
Perfect. They have that flexibility, right? Dr. Weiland, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Byron, thanks so much for the talk. I'm really interested in this health bank that you mentioned at the end. If you could elaborate a little bit more on that and kind of just explain how it actually works.
So it is actually a life policy. It's specially designed to actually build cash value quickly. So you're waiving any type of surrender charges and things of that nature. The reason why most agents won't do it and why it doesn't make sense in most situations is that you really do need some type of health plan initially to protect that person adequately, if that makes sense. It's something that you can build up over time, but like I said, I showed some of those numbers there. I think by the fifth year, let me see. By the fifth year, cash value on that's about $38,000. $38,000 is going to buy just about any surgery that you need for anything under the sun, other than something that's really catastrophic. There's some maybe musculoskeletal surgeries that are a little bit more expensive. Those can run all the way up in the $10,000 or the $100,000 range. But again, by the 10th year, you have enough cash for those types of things as well. And then the good news is, at this point, like once you get enough money, I mean, you could either decide to continue going down that whole path of health insurance, or you can self-fund your own care. And if you need to jump on an Obamacare plan when you need to, that's how the system's designed. So that's your choice.
Definitely shows you the attributes of time, though. Like in any of these things, that kind of goes to the nature of his question, because it's like, well, if I buy it today, can I use it tomorrow? And certain things you can, but others no. That's the whole purpose of this. You have to make these plans and be diligent, and then at this point, you're going to kind of get to that promised land, like you said, and then you're suddenly in a position everybody's way envious of, but no one forced you to do it.
at the end of the day, though, too, keep in mind that this is money that would normally be spent on other insurances that aren't as effective. I mean, the first client that I did this with a while back, she was 38, and we made a phenomenal plan that works exactly how she needs it to work. Included all of the features that my wife's plan has, and ended up saving her and her spouse, I think, $700 a month. Well, taking that $700 a month, she was only 38. By the time she retires, she was looking at like 1.6, $1.7 million tax-free that she would have for her family. But more importantly than that, she has $700 that she's not setting on fire because she sent it to an insurance company. The only way she can get it back is to file a claim. Does that make sense? So if they're healthy, that doesn't make any sense at all to send that money in premium.
Or the most expensive doctor's visit, because I've sold people myself in the business. It's like $1,200 a month premium. So what'd you do? Did you use it last year? Well, I had a doctor's visit. Really?
Right.
Well, that's the most expensive doctor visit I ever heard of. So
Yeah,
you're
no,
right about
time.
burning that cash. It's a shame to see it happen. Charles, I see you got another question here.
Yeah. So Byron, all the great thought leaders and entrepreneurs we host here every Wednesday for 3 years now, Jeff, I think it is. Everyone is convinced they've got the panacea, and in most cases, Jeff and I believe they do. There are a handful of people that have great packages to save money, empower patients, and yours has that advantage where it takes care of all of your non-health costs too, and you bring in retirement. So it's pretty comprehensive. All of us entrepreneurs got to where we are through a journey. We've done different things. How did you arrive at this package as I can tell you're motivated, you're excited, you've got the right thing. How did you get this right package? Did you have to make a couple of mistakes along the way, take some things out, add some things in? Are you planning on making any tweaks to it going forward? That journey.
So what I would say to that is I started in the senior space, working with seniors, actually on the life side with final expense. And I just saw how, here are these people that are literally have $1,200 a month for Social Security. They have no retirement. And they really they want to do the right thing by their family and not leave this burden just in case they pass away. But they really have to think about that $30 that they're going to spend, or that $40 that they're going to spend, because that's a huge portion of what they have left over at the end of the month, if they have anything left over at the end of the month. So what really drove me to move this direction is just, if we can help people to understand this stuff early on in life, then they can buy this insurance for pennies on the dollar. I don't want to say that this is a panacea. I want to say that this is just treating insurance the way that it's supposed to be treated, and doing the right thing by the client and putting them in the best position possible, using practical insurance strategies, if that makes sense. So one of the cool things is, I was telling Jeff that, I was mentored by some powerhouses in the industry that helped me to understand the math behind how health insurance works. Also, some strategies that they would use on the group side to do cost containment and things of that nature. So essentially what I've put together is, it's similar to a reference-based pricing plan, if you know what that is, where it's using Medicare as kind of a guideline for what most costs are going to be. Essentially, this is an individual reference-based pricing plan that pays very similar to a major medical plan. And again, because it's underwritten and has pre-existing conditions just for the first year, after the second year, everything's covered as long as you're covered. It's just a much better mousetrap to maybe take care of things and not have to pay an arm and a leg, where you can't afford to go to the doctor, but you also can't afford to use your insurance. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So.
And that you actually can use. One of the things we ran into is some of the people that bought their Obamacare plans, they couldn't find a doctor that would take it. Or the one that was
Yeah.
even in proximity, they have to drive like hundreds of miles to find a doctor. So there's that fallacy of those too. So they weren't only just affordable, they also sometimes were unusable though. So that is pretty incredible. Charles, did you have a follow-up there?
Sure. For innovators like you and us, sometimes politics comes into play because commercially we're helping people, we're getting the word out, we're doing marketing 101, communications, LinkedIn. But this is a calling. This is about a seventh of the economy, healthcare. And we know it's really pushed down from some big players up top, hospitals, insurers, pharma, et cetera. Do you ever get the political bug to really broadcast a message that this is really important for everyone to get the right policies, not just follow in line with what you think you're supposed to do with Blue Cross, that you're participating in a calling to really save the country? You ever get those kind of ideas or is it just a straight commercial play for you?
No, I'm driven to get the message out there and help people understand, more importantly, what they have, but then what they don't have. I know. So when I look at my plan, and this is true of all insurance is just money. So it doesn't matter if it's your homeowner insurance, your car insurance, your health insurance, your life insurance, or disability insurance. It's money because you suffered some type of financial loss. And what it protects is your other money. So in that presentation, I give the example of if I had a $60,000 shortfall on that cancer treatment. Well, where's that money going to come from? It's not insurance, so it has to come from my retirement, from my savings account, from my child's college fund, selling off maybe my house or my car or something like that. We see this all the time where people just simply don't think about those things beforehand, and they trust that their employer has their best interest and the government has their best interest and this politician has their best interest. And at the end of the day, really all they need is a little bit of education to know what they do have and what they don't have so that they can fill in those gaps. And I'm really motivated in finding people that are on that same path of doing what's right for the client, which I call partners, by the way, because this isn't something where I can just write up a quick application and all of a sudden everything's going to be all right. The system's too broken for that. I mean, you have to take control of your finances, take control of what you want to happen in your world. And this gives them the opportunity to do that. So that's my passion is really empowering people.
Kind of allows the income to take care of itself when you're doing that, right?
Well, the cool thing is, so on how insurance really works, not like ACA, Obamacare type stuff where the government meddles in it. They actually pay you well for good business. So when I'm talking to 85% of that population that's relatively healthy, that doesn't have something major going on like cancer or COPD or something, diabetes with insulin, that kind of thing, these insurance companies will pay you a fair living to bring that kind of business to the table. So yeah, it's good for the broker to do it. It's good for the client because they pay significantly less. At the end of the day, it takes that education part of it for people to really understand, okay, maybe what I'm doing right now is broken. Like, I'll give you an example. I've run enough quotes here in Texas to know that the average fully insured plan is going to require you to pay anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 in premium, deductible, and co-insurance before they're going to spend a dime on your healthcare. So there's a bunch of ways that they can set that up. I mean, you can pay a really high premium and have some co-pays and get to go to the doctor, but it's just like what you said, Jeff. I mean, if I'm paying an extra, let's call it $300 a month to go from a catastrophic plan to a gold plan that has co-pays for everything, at that point, if I only go to the doctor once or twice, I'm spending $1,800 to $3,600 a doctor visit. Now, if that's a good way to spend your money, then have at it. But if you want to do something a little bit better, I mean, you would have essentially been better off going and paying cash at that point for those doctor visits. It would have saved you $3,400. But until somebody actually sits down and does the math for people and helps them to better understand what they currently have, it becomes very difficult to be able to overcome some of those things.
It's interesting when you're commenting in that regard, because imagine how much smarter and empowered your clients are having had this conversation with you that no one ever had with them before. So
Exactly.
they know they
I
really
see
have a better handle
the-
what they've actually got for a change.
I see these employers, they're doing enough to get by because they're told that they have to. And if people were depending on that to be, the financial safety net that they need, their one accident, their one trip, their one sickness, their one something away from being financially destitute. And that's the sad truth of it. So
One of those statistics that always mind blows everybody is that how many people that go bankrupt for medical reasons actually had insurance. Doesn't even seem to make sense, right? How could
Right.
that even be? But yeah, because of the system set up, like you said, all those plans are set up in such a way. By the time I actually use it, I go broke. I could just barely pay for it, but the minute I used it, I went broke. That's kind of sort of how it goes. Silly and sorry to laugh at that, but it's exactly what happens. We've seen it before. I was going to say we're getting close to the end here. I'm going to see if I got Dr. Weil. I'm going to tap you to kind of throw in a last little comment or rejoinder here. I see you unmuted.
yes.
Where'd he go? Oh,
Are you there, Jared?
he stepped on his microphone when he wasn't looking. Charles, did you have anything to add real quick before we get out of here? Otherwise, I'm going to have Jared pop back in when he comes back up.
Sure. Your target markets, individuals, small business, and more about the partnerships, just customers, or do you work with affiliate groups, membership associations? How are you marketing?
So I do a little bit of all of those things. To tell you the truth, once you understand the fundamentals of insurance, there's a million ways you can do this. I can use an Obamacare plan and build a very similar plan to what I have here. In fact, sometimes when somebody's low income, that might make a whole lot of sense where their Obamacare plan becomes that overarching catastrophic coverage, but then you fill in that financial safety net with the things that they actually need, which again, if they're young and healthy, they have the privilege of getting this stuff for pennies on the dollar. So, it's the right way to go about things, in my opinion. And without it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have that healthcare plan and ultimately end up going bankrupt, because the one thing that was most important for you to insure was actually you and your income, because that's your biggest asset. Because you can have that health plan, but as soon as you can't work and pay your health insurance, guess what? You're out on the street. So yeah, it's just trying to change that mindset in people, and that's my goal.
Very good. All right, I was see to Jared. Did you get back in gear?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Now we can. Beautiful.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I guess one of the things that I've found that really kind of helps people kind of wrap this all together and wrap their brain around this. And I know you mentioned and brought up the example with your family a couple of times, but do you have any other examples where, you basically kind of save people an extreme amount of money or what have you that you could share?
Yeah. So had a client just the other day. Her doctor works at a hospital, so they have to refer any imaging inside that facility. It's going to be, I want to say, about $3,000. She needed an MRI on her nasal cavities, something like that. I can't remember what was going on, but anyway, I went through Green Imaging, ended up getting her that MRI for, I think it was $350. The plan that we have, it pays $700 for outpatient MRIs. So not only did she get the MRI that she needed, she saved almost $2,700 that she didn't have to spend by going to the wrong place, and she ended up putting $350 in her pocket. So it's just being a matter of being a good steward of those dollars that they give you. And we have that. I mean, I talk about that situation with the gallbladder surgery. I had another lady that recently signed up. She had a knee surgery, and she sent me her EOB from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we actually priced out what it would have saved her had she been on this plan. It would have put an additional, I think, $5,000 or $6,000 in her pocket. Plus, she wouldn't have had any out of pocket, which I think she spent $1,700 out of pocket with her Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, and her plan would have been 60% more expensive every month. So again, it's just going back to those fundamentals and understanding how all of this stuff works. Once you do that, then it actually becomes pretty simple.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most novel thing about your techniques that I've seen so far that I haven't seen elsewhere is being paid to get medical care rather than paying for it, right? That's pretty interesting.
I mean, if you're a good steward of that money, and again, there's just some basic rules you should follow. If you ever go to the emergency room, tell them you're cash pay, you'll save 80 to 90%. If you go to any outpatient imaging, like MRIs, CAT scans, PET scans, if you pay cash, you save about 90%. Everything else that I use on the plan, typically what I'll do is I'll just run it through the PPO network for simplicity and just get a check back. And we use it all the time. My daughter's 2, turning 3. So, go down to the urgent care, it's $75. We get a check back for 400. Go to a pediatrician, get a check back for 18 bucks or 30 bucks. Or, I mean, it happens more often than I'd like to admit, because it's a little bit tiring sometimes when she gets ear infections and stuff. But having said that, it's definitely a difference, because we're not paying that deductible up front. We're not paying the co-pays when we go to the doctor. We're just sitting back and collecting checks, which unfortunately sometimes collect on our refrigerator and don't get cashed in a timely manner, but that's neither here nor there.
What a horrible challenge you have to face. What a great way to end it, because it just goes to show. I mean, here you're smiling, but I mean, it just goes to show. So everybody else would be so glum all of what's going on. You're like, hey, we made a couple bucks. The kid's feeling better. This is great. It's perfect. Hey, we get one more earache out of her, we're going to get a dinner for this weekend, you and I, honey. So there you go.
It's funny. Somebody had mentioned getting tubes for her because she loves swimming. That's why she keeps on getting these ear infections. And I was like, so how much did that cost you at the outpatient? I think it was like, I don't know, $3,000. I'm like, yeah, maybe we should get her tubes, because that's like a $3,000 or $4,000 payday for us based on our plan. But
that's what I'm saying. Maybe we need that vacation, So that's cute. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us. It was very enlightening, obviously. And, our goal is to get more people understanding their options out there. So you're certainly helping make that a reality.
I appreciate it.